Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the October 12th, 2020 episode of the Cyber Insecurity stream. As always, my name is Neil Bridges, and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to all of our new joiners, as well as our regular visitors. Love it. I was chatting with everybody in chat today, and yes, I wasn't even muted this time. I'm getting better with my checklist, right? I want to thank all the new followers who literally followed just now in chat. Thank you very much for the support, and welcome to the Cyber Insecurity family. New quote, right? Real conversations with real people. That is direct from one of our guests that we had last week. I think that's going to be kind of the new motto for the stream. So real conversations with real people instead of the bot that's in chat. Ignore the bot. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, we do stream from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are here to elevate the conversation around cybersecurity. Now, what exactly does that mean? We have a problem in this industry where we don't have real conversations about the topics that affect our ability to secure companies. Cybersecurity is ever-changing landscape, and our goal really is to focus on multiple aspects of that industry. You will hear, red team concepts, blue team concepts. You might think that you're out of your league. You're absolutely not. We do discuss everything from cyber risk, those industry impacts of the current landscape, and really the art of the possible when it comes to dealing with today's cybersecurity issues. Now, whether you're an experienced cybersecurity veteran or whether you're new to the field, whether you barely know how to spell cyber or somebody who was born into cyber, this stream is for you. We are here for everyone to participate and learn from our community. So thank you for being with us tonight. With that in mind, we regularly try to have professionals from across the industry. No guests tonight. I do have a co-host tonight. I'll introduce him on the next slide. We also have moderators in chat. Those moderators are there to answer questions. I'll be answering questions on stream. Our co-host will be answering questions on stream as well. Your questions really are important to us. They really are the prime value that comes from our stream being live. And so we ask that you ask those questions at any point in time about any topic, literally any topic, whether it's something that we're covering on stream or whether it's something that's top of mind to you, and we'll do our best to address them. We literally, if you saw Saturday's Chat and Chill stream, somebody asked in chat, if they had to ask, a certain related question, and we promptly encourage them to ask whatever it was. We're definitely here for you, and we want you to ask whatever question is top of mind. We want you to be able to come to the stream and be like, I really want to ask this question and get an answer to it. And so questions are very, very important to us. We do broadcast via Twitch for our regularly scheduled broadcasts. You can find the videos in the video section of Twitch, or you can go to our YouTube channel. Either way, make sure you subscribe to that and hit that bell to get notifications when we do get videos uploaded. We are here for you, the community, and we strive to bring you the most intriguing opinions, points of views, and conversations in the cybersecurity industry every single solitary stream. We appreciate all of our followers. We appreciate all of our subscribers. Subscribers do get early access to a lot of our special events and features. A lot of the special stuff that's going on in Discord. We've got subscriber only benefits for that, as well as some promotional offers. You'll also get first notifications and access to certain stuff. We have had a couple people donate to the stream already. Any and all donations that are donated to the stream will immediately be sent to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. We in the cybersecurity stream, we don't keep any of those donations whatsoever. We send them off to Wounded Warrior. We thank all of our vets for their service and sacrifice. Especially with Veterans Day coming right around the corner, we appreciate every single one of you for your past, present, or future service. If you would like to support the stream in that way, head on over to our About section on the Twitch page, and you can drop that donation there. Obviously, there's no obligation to do that. You can head over to, the Wounded Warrior Foundation's website and do that donation there yourself. There's no obligation to do any of these. We're going to continue to deliver you content. We love this. We thoroughly enjoy this. This is really exciting for us. And so as such, we're going to continue to deliver this content to you. And so with all of those logistics out of the way, excited to present my co-host for the night. My co-host is a regular on the show, hence the reason why we're actually going to start calling him a co-host now instead of just a guest. Clearly, he enjoys the darker sides of things because he keeps coming back for the punishment of being on this stream. In the last week since he's been on our show, he's slain more packets than a low orbit ion cannon. He's submitted more fish than the folks of Wicked Tuna. My good friend, my cyber battle buddy, Jeff Goals. Jeff, as always, thank you for joining me on the stream tonight.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
You are a little low. Let's turn you up a little bit. There we go. We're going to hit some community news for everybody. Our Discord server is live. You can use the ! Discord to get the link for that. If you'd like to have a place to collaborate outside of the stream, please feel free to join. We've got lots of exciting channels, such as a meme channel, which has probably seen the most popularity since we put the Discord channel up. Lots of cybersecurity memes there. Currently, it's focused really on extending our conversations that we have on stream to those time slots where we're not specifically streaming. We were helping a couple folks today with some of their CTF stuff. Talking about cyber threat intelligence and whatnot. So as such, the rooms and content is broken down like that. If you've got any suggestions, we're obviously welcome to hear them, and that Discord channel is going to continue to grow. Another piece of industry news, remember that you, the community, determines when our next giveaway is. That doesn't mean that everybody can turn around and say we want to give away now. That's not how that's going to work. If you draw your attention down to the bottom of the stream chat, you'll see a little green and black icon that's labeled Hacked Planets. We need everybody's help in hacking the planet. That is a requirement of everybody on this stream, is to help us hack the planet. And really, that's your ability to contribute to our giveaway, basically. All the contributions that do go towards hacking the planets do determine when our next giveaway is. Wow, my English is terrible tonight.
Who learned you that?
Say what?
Who learned you that?
Who learned me that? Yeah, exactly. Look at that. As soon as I mention it, everybody drops in some massive bonus points down there. Good job, guys. Currently, we're about 1/3 of the way, with 12 days remaining in our giveaway. We're currently averaging about 5% increase each and every stream. And so at that rate, we will hit our goal exactly on the deadline. Now, again, because we are a cybersecurity stream, if we do an internal risk assessment on the stream, that's not a whole lot of margin for error. So we need to make sure that everybody's contributing to the points. We have had some regulars who are on point with keeping me and my co-host or guest hydrated and stretched throughout the stream. We did do a 3.5-hour stream on Saturday, and I had to refill my water halfway through, which was really nice. Jeff is not consuming alcohol tonight, so there will be no getting Jeff drunk on the stream tonight. You can redeem the points in chat for things like suggesting polls, rating fellow streamers, unlocking subscriber emotes, and being able to use them. Or, as you can see, people are still dropping in points that they've gotten contributing to the challenges. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 subscribers do earn point multipliers, which obviously gets us there faster. Why do we do this? Seems pretty obvious, right? When chat participates, we give things away. When we give things away, you're happy. When you're happy, you tune in. When you tune in, we grow as a community. We get more guests. We get more prizes. It's the cycle of life. I feel like there needs to be a Lion King reference there for that.
You're not going to sing, are you?
You say that. I almost rapped tonight. I am, she's in there.
That's a little different than singing Hakuna Matata.
She's going to run in here and tell me not to do it, but I was going to rap tonight. I've been building lyrics. The song that
Anna Maria, thank you, by the way. Thank you.
The song that we were listening to in the green room before the stream started, WAP by Cardi B, I have written lyrics to WAP by Cardi B that are very hacker-centric. So instead of weak-ass I wrote weak-ass crypto. It's coming. We're gonna drop some weak-ass crypto on here. It's gonna be crazy. So I'm not singing for you tonight because the producers have told me that I'm not ready to be singing on mic, but that will come.
That has to get approved by Anna Maria and me prior to it.
There will be a cyber insecurity rap that will happen.
Okay.
So, bottom line, hack the planet. Hack the planet, get prizes, we all win. Upcoming events. Let's talk about that. Post it to YouTube as well. Please consult your mods.
It will be.
Therason's over there like, please consult your mods. This is a bad idea. All the producers are over there like, no. Yeah, see, there it is right there. There's Carmen. Yeah, the mods are not approving. Upcoming events. So, Jeff, this would be a good opportunity for you to get into some of these upcoming events. I know you're excited to get your hands dirty. Next week we had to make a choice. I know I've been touting both Hackers Halted and Splunk.conf. We did talk about .conf on Saturday, and when we looked at the schedule and we looked at the things that were going on, our loyalties to Splunk, all hail the magic Splunk banner behind me, they did win out, and we are going to be doing .conf next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so what does that look like for everybody here? Let's talk about Boss of the Sock first. And it's Boss of the Sock, Boss of the Knock. I'll go ahead and drop the link inside of chat for everybody. Boss of the Sock is obviously the Security Operations Center, part of it, and then the Knock is the Network Operations Center part of it. They really do both of them, right? So you can do security or you can do IT ops, depending on where your focus is or where you have a desire to learn. And so Joe, who is one of my regular Capture the Flaggers, he has made an appearance out of the shadows for Boss of the Sock, and he will be joining me on the cyber and security team for Boss of the Sock. That does mean that we do have 2 open spots. We'll try to figure out how to get those 2 spots filled. We'll probably look to give those 2 spots away on Saturday stream. So tune into Saturday stream if you want to be part of the cyber and security Boss of the Sock team. Obviously, you don't have to be on our team to participate. We're going to continue to do our normal Capture the Flag rules next week for Boss of the Sock. We'll stream it. We'll help everybody learn. We'll all participate in it together and whatnot. It's community driven, sharing our tactics on stream, all those types of things. So those on the stream, those who are on the stream and on the cyber and security team, though, will be awarded the coveted MVP icon in chat for the next 30 days. So if you look on chat, we don't have any of our MVPers on stream tonight, but get a little diamond next to your name if you're interested in the swag when it comes to the chat swag. Secondly, so that's Monday. Monday is Boss of the Sock. Secondly, on Tuesday and Wednesday, there will be talks. Now, I did speak with the team at Splunk today, did inform them of our plans, and made sure that there were no issues on their end and everything checked out there. We do have a talk schedule that we will be posting to the stream schedule here this week. Obviously, we're not going to attend every talk. The way that we're going to run the formats for the talks, we've picked the ones. We're going to stream certain talks. We decided to pick the ones that provide kind of the most relevancy to some of the things that we've talked about here on stream. So we'll do a stream of that talk. It's usually about a 30-minute talk, and then we'll give a block after that for commentary. And we tried to pick the ones that were pretty relevant to some of the talk topics that we've had on stream and things that we thought that would be the most relevant given the direction of cybersecurity in roughly the next 6 to 12 months. And then third, like whatever sounded like it would be pretty cool from like an edge of knife type of topic. So again, .conf is free. All the talks are free. Boss of the Sock is free. Our goal is not to replace Splunk at all. That's absolutely not our goal. We want you to go and participate in .conf and Boss of the Sock too. We're keeping with the theme of trying to bring meaningful conversations to the community, and that's why we're choosing to do the format that we're choosing. So you can go to the talks. You can come to us and have the discussion with us. You can we can all go to the talks together and then do the discussion afterwards. Whatever works for you. Looking real forward to the turnout for that conference. Are you guys doing Connect in Q1, or do you know yet?
Yeah, it'll be Q2 most likely.
Be Q2 most likely.
Yeah.
We'll probably look to do similar things for Q2 if we're still sitting in a COVID lockdown. Next calendar. Oh, somebody wants me to stretch. We got to stretch, Jeff. I know you've been working hard over there listening to me babble. November 7th. Mark your calendars. We've talked about this in the last couple streams. This is the Secure West Virginia conference. You can hit that ! Secure West Virginia inside of the chat to get details on the Secure West Virginia conference. For that conference, we will be doing our normal Saturday stream. However, there's really going to be nothing normal about this stream. It's going to be as part of the Secure West Virginia conference, and so there will be, hopefully a couple hundred people attending that stream with any luck. We also have a very, very special guest, Mr. Robert Lee, who's the CEO from Dragos Inc. He's going to come onto that stream. Now, if you don't know Rob, he's got an amazing background. He is former Air Force cyber operator, and he is really the de facto standard when it comes to industrial control systems expertise. He advises several Fortune companies on their industrial control system security. He's been an advisor on Vice's cyber war documentary. If you were on the stream last Wednesday when we had Rick McElroy on, he gave a personal recommendation, to Rob's expertise. And so it's really going to be really awesome to have him on stream. We are still working with the conference promoters to see if we're going to be able to use the cyber and security stream format for any additional streaming content. We'll continue to let you know if that unfolds. We've talked back and forth about a couple of different things. Uh-oh. Is the bot not working? Oh, shoot. See, I told you guys the bots were getting confused as well. Hold on, let me find the Secure West Virginia. There you go. There's the Secure West Virginia. One more upcoming October 21st. So many of you have asked for it. Many of you have been waiting for it. I know it's been a long time coming, but on October 21st, so I think that's next Wednesday, we will start the first of our multi-part series on open source intelligence gathering, OSINT. I mentioned it a bit last week. I told you we'd been working on the syllabus for it, and we'd been working on how to make that possible. And so next Wednesday we will do the first of what is definitely going to be a multi-part series on OSINT. I imagine that what we're looking at is probably 2 or 3 streams when it comes to OSINT. It is a pretty broad topic, but it's also meant to be an OSINT primer, which is going to kind of get you up and running with OSINT and get you started on it. And again, kind of to Neil's top ways of getting into cybersecurity, kind of get you that thread that you can kind of start to pull on to get you started on OSINT. So it'll be a full 2-hour session. We won't have a guest next Wednesday. What we're going to cover the objectives of OSINT. We're going to cover building out your environment. We're going to cover the first of our tools series. So for that first of our tool series, we're going to talk about Maltego. We hit on it a little bit on Saturday, and Maltego is, when people talk about threat intelligence or open source intelligence or anything like that, Maltego almost always comes off of everybody's lips. But as you heard me say on Saturday, there's a lot of really bad information out there on how to use Maltego. For example, people have a tendency to just drop entities inside of Maltego, and then they right click and they say run all transforms, and then they get this massive blow up graph, and they have no idea what to do with it from there. So, we're going to actually teach you how to use Maltego and not how to just simply run all transforms. Is it allowed to ask questions to the host here via the chat? 100% Codefish. You can ask a question in chat at any point in time, without it. Just have right on at it, man. So again, next Wednesday, tune in. 2-hour OSINT session will be the first of many for that. Last but not least, next Tuesday, we will be doing a webcast with the team over at INE. So many of you have been, or some of you have been in the INE, closed beta for their new CyberPass. And I'll drop this one in here. CyberPass. There we go. Awesome. See the bot is kind of half sleeping. So those of you who have been in the beta, hopefully that's working out well. I've been informed that the beta is going to come to an end if it has not come to an end already. So make sure that if you are in the beta and you are still taking that training, that you are getting the maximum amount of it, because that beta is going to come to the end at least within the next week. We did have a dry run today, so next Tuesday, and that's the link that I just dropped into chat using the ! CyberPass. I'll be doing a webcast next Tuesday. I'm talking to the CEO of INE, and we are going to be launching the Cyber Pass next week. It looks like that's Frankenstein with an awesome lead speak in there. Frankenstein. Looking forward to this launching. We are too. So let me give you a little bit of history and background. And Jeff, I want to get your feedback on this because I know you and I have talked ad nauseum about kind of the status of cybersecurity training and just like what's going on with classes like SANS and things like this. But one of the things that excites me most about this Cyber Pass is it's a completely different way of looking at cybersecurity, right? If you look at, and again, for those who don't know on stream, I'm a former SANS instructor. I spent 5 years teaching for the SANS Institute. I taught for the United States Air Force, and I built 2 collegiate level programs in the United States Air Force, to teach cyber warfare and cyber operations and things like that. And so I'm very, very passionate about teaching and education. But I've got no qualms in saying that education traditionally has been very point specific. And when I say point specific, let's look at some of the IT certifications like MCSE or Cisco certifications. They teach you how to use a technology. And once you get done with that technology, you're certified to do that technology. And even if you look at some of the cybersecurity certs that are out there, if you take GPEN or OSCP or CEH, they're very, very specific to teach you how to do penetration testing. So they're still very point specific. What they're lacking is a fabric, a way to move seamlessly between all of these different certification options that you have, so that you, the student, get to take control of your career. And let's say that you're sitting as a SOC analyst doing IR work for 3 years, and you decide that you want to do penetration testing. And really the question becomes is how do you get there? And most people will simply go to YouTube or go to Reddit or go to Twitter and say, I want to get into penetration testing. How do I do it? And they'll find videos that talk about, take this course, take this certification, try Hack Me, do Hack the Box. And there's 901 opinions out there as to how to get into penetration testing. What I think is lacking is a roadmap that says, here's what we know you already know by being a security analyst doing incident response. Here's a roadmap that gets you directly to being a penetration tester with a courseware that's laid out for you, almost as if it's guiding you towards that career change into that penetration testing. You can tell I'm very passionate about it, Jeff. I don't know if I were to say that to you, like how does that sound to you from like a career perspective?
It's kind of interesting. I was actually talking to my nephew who's getting his doctorate. He's going to be a orthopedic surgeon, and so he goes to med school and whatnot, and he starts going through his rounds, right? And he did orthopedics, which he loved, but then he also did an emergency room session. He did cardiovascular, did some other. I think they do like 4 different rounds. And kind of what's missing, like what I'm hearing you say, is very similar to the medical industry. We've got all these specialists, right? And if you've got a weird sounding ailment and you just don't, you feel weird, you sound weird, and you don't necessarily know exactly what's wrong with you, you end up going in for 15 different tests, and then they say, I think that's this guy over here, or you got to go over here, because it's not your digestive system, so maybe it's your lungs. But I don't cover lungs. I cover, and it's almost like the same thing in cybersecurity. It's almost like we're in the same hyper specialization that we've been, because our world has gotten so complex that in order to be effective, you've got to go through highly specialized training. So in order to move from being a tier 1 or whatever to in your example, you want to do pen testing. Well, that's a highly specialized field, right? And it's almost like we're missing the general practitioner now.
Yeah.
And I think we need to go back to a little bit of that general practitioner role, a little bit, and then start spurring off into the things that interest you. And if you want to make a change, you have to be on this specialized track. But it takes time, because in order for you to provide value in this hyper complex world, you have to have enough training in that hyper specialized space to add any value in that new role.
Absolutely.
But you agree with that, or
Yeah, no, I agree that you use the medical example. I think when I talk to people, and I guess I go back to my military days, right? And I use
shocker?
I know, right? I know, right?
Didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that one coming. I use the airframe example, right? When you're a pilot, right? You start out your flight training on a T-38, right? And then you start doing your T-38 training and you learn the basics of flying and you almost get your pilot's license doing the T-38. And then you move from there into whatever specific airframe you want to, and then you learn on that airframe. And then let's say that you learn on, F-15s, but then decide that fighter pilot life isn't for you and you want to go fly C-17 cargo planes. You still have that basic, T-38 framework, but then how do you take everything that you've learned by flying F-15s and use that and convert it over to flying something like an airframe like a C-17? And that concept, I think, is where the direction of the cyberpass and where INE has taken it to. So,
well, outside of Bernoulli effect, I don't think there is much carryover. That's the problem. Right?
Maybe that one's a little bit of an extreme one, but
okay.
But rough example. So anyway, next Tuesday, tune into the podcast or tune into the webcast that I'll be doing with INE. CyberPass will be launching next week. There will be offer codes that are given during the stream, and we're talking like a free year's worth of the CyberPass, and all that stuff. So make sure you do want to tune into next week's webcast because you will be able to get free access to some of that stuff. So, Codefish has got a question inside a chat.
Yeah, it's actually the first one is background, and this is exactly to my point, right? You've got a lot of experience in the IT space, and then the question is, how do I get into cyber? And Neil, this is part of our conversation. Geez, that dates back like 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how would I tell a college student who's interested in cyber how to get into cyber? Super smart. She's a physics major. She loves the idea of moving into cyber, but how does she get into it? And you've talked with her before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you got to just start doing it,
yeah.
which sounds weird, but you listen to a lot of podcasts, you read a lot of information, and you're like, well, ask her what she does. What does she subscribe to? Right. What does she read Reddit? Does she go into like the various new alerts that are coming out? Right. Yeah. And go deep into that. So I think what's missing to your point, though, is more of a prescriptive approach.
Yeah.
Right. Because your guidance, which was really, really good, is just start doing it.
Yeah.
You get experience with what you know, and then every time you do it, you get a little bit more experience. I think there's got to be a different way to do it, though. And I think with your conversation next Tuesday, that could lead into an interesting discussion of kind of going down a multitude of avenues on your own versus a prescriptive approach to training.
Yeah. So I agree with you, and I read that question from Codefish. So Codefish, I'm reading your question there, and that's a lot of the problem that this new CyberPass is really trying to solve, right? Is how do you get into InfoSec? I'm looking at your skill set here. You've got a good amount of background. I mean, 6 years in IT, service desk, good on you for that. Some Cisco certification and networking skills and things like that. You've got the background on things like that. How do you get into InfoSec? What do I focus my spare time on? I think there's a lot of suggestions in chat about, whether your specialty lies in red team, blue team physical testing. Typically, I think you don't really know what it is that you want to do in terms of whether you want to be on the offensive side or the defensive side. When we talk about red team, you can kind of see Thierson, explains a little bit that offense is, when you hear about penetration testing, when you hear about hacking, when you hear about red teaming, when you hear about attempting to break into networks and to simulate hacker techniques, that's oftentimes what's referred to as the red team. The blue team is probably what you're most frequently, seen, where you may have a SOC, a security operations center, where you've got incident responders and folks who are trying to find bad guys on the network. Physical testing is literally breaking into buildings. I could tell you some really, really good physical pen testing stories of some things that I've done in my day. You're jumping fences.
Allegedly, Neil.
No. I had permission to do these. I can talk about these
okay.
antics. Okay, yeah.
The other ones were alleged.
Other ones were alleged.
I got mixed up for a second.
That's right. Taking courses does help a lot. I think that is something that you do need to, I think the way the current system exists right now is like going out to YouTube and doing something like, YouTube tell me about penetration testing, or YouTube tell me about threat hunting and things like that. I think that's really kind of the de facto, how do you learn about some of these things that are in cybersecurity. Honestly, you're in the right place. This is exactly why we started the stream, is so that you can hear us talk about all aspects of cybersecurity, so that it kind of helps shape potentially a decision that you would make in terms of how to get into the field. Neil,
I got to ask you, because you've done both. So you've got a really interesting background, right? And for the rest of the listeners, Neil's done pen testing, and he's done. I'm gonna praise you for a little bit here, which
I'm glad I'm recording.
I know is gonna come back to bite me.
I was gonna say I'm glad I'm recording this stream,
man. But you've got an interesting background of doing pen testing and offensive and defensive, right?
Yeah.
Which is a super cool cross section. What's really, I think, something that is, often a question for a lot of people is, how do I know which avenue I want to go down? The perfect example, I've been doing IT for 6 years. I've got certifications. I've got network understanding. I've got a little bit of cyber understanding, and I want to understand which direction I want to go down. How do you determine, or how would you advise someone to, soul search and figure out, which avenue they want to go down, and how do they put their toe in the water?
This is legitimately the hardest question that I get asked, more than any other question that I ever get asked from a career perspective. This is the hardest question to ask, because there's kind of two main factors that I see people fall into, right? The first is everybody thinks pen testing and red teaming is the cool, sexy, right? It's the simulation of the hacker, right? It's the quintessential, hackers.
You need to add that to a verse in your rap, by the way.
Oh, I will. Oh,
the cool, sexy.
Oh, I'm telling you, this rap is going to be lit. Like I'm gonna do a Cardi, like it's going to be, she's in there cursing me right now. Anyway,
she's actually in there cursing me too.
Yeah. The thing that I'd want people to not fall into, right, is don't choose pen testing just because it's the cool, sexy, right? I know that that's what everybody does, and it's so hard to, especially in this day and age, not to say like, wow, that looks so awesome. It's so sensationalized with Mr. Robot, and and we hear about it in the news, and I know we talk about hacks all the time, and everybody wants to do it. But the reality of the matter is that you're going to spend more time in cyber doing defensive work, doing risk and governance, doing risk assessments, and working your way around the technical applications inside of cybersecurity. You can go from incident response analyst to threat intelligence to threat hunter, and that's 15 years of your career right there. And you could stay technical and do some amazing stuff that's far more beneficial to the community than focusing on pen testing and red teaming. And that's not to downplay pen testing.
Would you agree that every one of those facets, if you're a red team first, it's going to make you a better blue teamer, right?
I don't agree with that statement.
You don't think so? Why?
I don't think that one will make you better than the other. I don't think being a blue teamer first makes you a better red teamer, and I don't think being a red teamer makes you a better blue teamer. I think that I think a blue teamer should know red team tactics, techniques, and procedures. I think a red teamer should absolutely know how incident responders and threat hunters respond to and look for their TTPs inside the network. I think. I hate this concept of a purple team, because this kind of gets to like what we talked with Rick about last week, where we talk about XDR and the marketization of some of the teams that, or some of the terms that we use in the industry. But I do think, because we've been doing this for years, long before they ever coined this term purple team, where I would run a pen test, and I would spend literally hours in the pre-engagement phase of a pen test talking to the incident response team, and basically the entire SOC and on the defensive side, prepping them for the pen test. And they would have my direct line during the pen test. And if they detected something, I wanted them to call me and talk to me about it so that we could walk through hand in hand what tactic I was running, how they were successful in catching it, so that we could then either adjust the tactic on our pen testing side so that they could see if they would detect it, or if they didn't detect it, vice versa. And so I think that collaboration is incredibly important. And I think that understanding both makes you better at the job that you're asked to do. But I don't think if you start in red teamer, you can be a better incident response analyst. And I don't think if you start as an incident response, you can be a better red teamer by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's a fallacy. I absolutely think that's a fallacy. I know we got kind of carried away with chat. See if there's anything I missed in chat.
Neil, it's all about the listeners. It's all about what they want anyway.
It really is. It really is. Thanks, A-Phrase. Keep listening to Neil. He's a human encyclopedia for the cyberspace. That's probably the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
Definitely is.
Nukasek says, I think we need to develop a pipeline exactly as the military has. Think SF selection or the basic training to AIT to promotion that is tailored to security in different fields specifically. I do think that what you're seeing from a pipeline perspective, Nukasek, is a function of our immaturity in bringing new people in. And I think that it's coupled with the fact that we are in, for lack of a better cliche term, we are in a security, talent shortage, that we don't have time or the wherewithal to develop said pipeline. Appreciate the advice so far. After my CS degree, what kind of entry-level job do I go for? And say if I go for a Java dev job or a DevOps job, that's not really InfoSec related, but could that benefit me if I want to switch to some security, say, after being a more standard developer after 2 years? Absolutely. I think DevOps is a fantastic stepping stone if you're interested in DevOps, because you can actually spend a little bit of your own time focusing. We talked on Saturday. If you go watch the recording from Saturday's stream, we talked a little bit about AppSec and DevSecOps and things like that on Saturday. Actually, I think we talked about it with Rick, too, on Wednesday last week. I think if you were to brush up on some of the security-related pieces through OWASP and things like that, I think you could actually call yourself DevOps, but on your resume, you can put some security-related stuff in there. And I think then from there, you actually have a really, really, really easy transition from DevSecOps into AppSec in the InfoSec career. And I think with a 1 or 2 job jump, you could move from DevSecOps into an AppSec role, and I think you could easily do that. That's actually a path that I could help you document if that's of interest.
Well, especially since DevOps is being asked so much more now than they ever have been to embed security ideas into the starting point or the foundational part of the DevOps. Security has been such a reactionary play. You create the application, you build the infrastructure and architecture to support it, and then you go tell the security team to go figure out a way to secure it. And, that whole mantra that has been we're reacting to as an industry, I think is changing now. And I think DevOps and, application development of all kinds are being asked to think more about how their application is going to be deployed and how it's going to be secured. So that it's not just a bolt-on afterthought.
And in the realm of AppSec, right, just in general, you have to remember, like, web apps aren't going away. Developing stuff in cloud isn't going to go away. Containerization is blowing up left and right. Actually, A-Phrase, I know who he is in real life. He's amazing at some cloud security stuff there. He's actually taking his CCSP, and I think that he can attest that just the direction in which we're going from a cloud perspective and then developing apps for the cloud, AppSec is never going to go away. We're always going to need application pen testers. And so that's why I say, like, you could learn DevSecOps and you'd have an excellent career path in cybersecurity doing DevSecOps type work, or you can learn AppSec and web application penetration testing at the same time that you're doing DevSecOps and do application penetration testing in a few jumps right after that. I think if that's where your head's at, you've got an amazing path in front of you.
Yeah, I can't read the dark blue who this is, but I always like to hire people with network engineering backgrounds for the security team. Absolutely, it's that framework and understanding that allows for you to really understand how a an attack is progressing and leveraging network and leveraging endpoints. And without that understanding of the network side, you're definitely at a disservice. It's harder for you to do your endpoint job unless you have a good understanding of that network.
Absolutely, absolutely. I on that note, right? The fact
My
that
resume is super weird. Yeah, so I think all of ours are, right.
I was gonna say I think cybersecurity is so new that most of our resumes are super weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Jeff to death, but Jeff has never held a technical role in his entire life, but he knows a crap ton about cybersecurity just because of, the in-depth knowledge that he gets from talking to teams on a day-to-day basis. I mean, he's just, he doesn't have to be technical, but he's thrived in this cybersecurity environment. I mean, I say he is if you're not here, but, I think you can hold your own in almost any cybersecurity conversation. All right, cool. So that was awesome. We'll continue to feed those into chat. As you can see, we love the conversations in chat. Obviously, chat gets us super fired up, and we love to talk about chat. With that being said, I want to kind of since it looks like there's a little bit of a lull in the career conversation from chat, let's head on over to. We're actually going to hit two tools tonight. Two tools that I think folks could benefit from. Right off the bat, and we'll kind of talk about those, and then we'll roll into the news. So. One of the first set of tools that I did find here recently, I'll drop the link for this inside of chat, is called Trident. So if you're not familiar with Praetorian is an amazing boutique cybersecurity company that does a lot of penetration testing. It's one of those companies that for you to even apply for a penetration testing role on their website, they do have a CTF for you to complete. It doesn't affect whether they do or don't look at your resume, but obviously it gives you some increased chances to get hired if you are able to complete their CTF. When you go to apply for their role. But they've released a tool called Trident, and so. If you're not familiar with the term password spraying, have you heard that one, Jeff, or have you?
I haven't.
You have? You have not?
I have not.
You
no.
have not. Okay. So Jeff, you've got an Office 365 account somewhere, right, where you use a username and password to log into. You've probably got as part of your Active Directory domain. If you're really crappy, a 12 password, 12 failed password lockout. If you're, a standard company, it's probably like about 5 or 6 or something like that. Where basically you enter your password wrong 5 times.
Is this part of your social engineering?
Am I trying to figure it out? No.
Okay, just curious.
And so like, it's, knowing what that standard lockout is for passwords, but, people are creatures of habit. It is statistically proven that there's a lot of passwords that are the most common passwords that are out there. And believe it or not, it's things like summer 20. What are we in 2020? I didn't think what year we were in. Summer 2020. We're coming up on fall and winter 2020. It's sometimes the month. Like October. What month are we in? October 2020. Something like that. And so
COVID-19 is not a good alphanumeric password.
I have seen COVID-19. I have seen COVID sucks as a password in the last 10 months. In the last 10 months, I have seen COVID sucks as a password.
Nice.
But anyway, it's taking those common passwords, top 10, 15, 20, whatever those passwords are, and in combination with the password lockout, you have some automated fashion where it will take, a harvested username and stuff that known password into a password field just enough time so it doesn't lock out an account, and then it'll move to kind of like the next name in the list that it has there. Password stuffing, password spraying, a couple different terms that it goes by. But the guys at Praetorian have actually released their tool that they use for their password spraying as part of their engagements. And it's got a pretty interesting set of architecture here. If you look at it, it's not just a script, and it's not just a a module for like Metasploit or something like that, they actually have, an entire Google Cloud project that's using Terraform and tons of executors that's actually set up to do a lot of the logic and analytics based on, factors that you set as part of your password spraying, requirements. You set this thing up, it's got an entire installation process with it, and then you throw it at an O365 environment or a Citrix environment or something like that, and it'll give you whatever the results are from the successful password spraying. So tons of respect for the guys at Praetorian. I thought that them releasing their Trident tool was actually pretty legit, and so I wanted to share that with everybody here because I thought, again, back to our conversation about whether you're a red team or blue team. Jeff, this is what I'm talking about. Like, everybody out there, regardless of whether you're red team or blue team, should be out there downloading this tool and trying it out, and seeing how it works. And here's what I like to tell people, Jeff, about setting this thing up, right, is if you're a red teamer, or a blue teamer, set this thing up so that you can capture the logs. If you're, regardless of whatever side you're on, learn how to run it, learn how to detect for it, and then learn how to evade it if you're a red teamer. And if you're a blue teamer, learn how to evade it so that you can then write signatures, that help you detect.
Sounds like blue teaming is harder. You got to do a couple more steps.
the blue teaming is
learn how to attack it, but then you got to learn how to solve the attack.
But then you got to figure out how to solve it out. Yeah. Well, it's so there's a lot of controversy around this, Jeff, in especially with companies like Praetorian releasing Trident. There's actually a massive movement out there by folks who think that we're encouraging threat actors to hack into networks because we publicly release code like this. Like there's a huge movement out there of folks that think that Praetorian is being utterly irresponsible by releasing this tool and is encouraging, the adversary to go out there and download this tool and use it to actively hack networks. Are you astounded by that? Is that the silence of what the F did you just say, or were you distracted?
That wasn't really a question, but I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think they are absolutely being a little bit on the edge, but I understand why they're doing it. I mean, if they're trying to get it out there so that people can understand, hey, the cyber criminals are already ahead of you. So it's not like they're giving it to cyber criminals. I guess they are, but the good ones already have this capability. Yeah, they already have it. Right?
You could do this. You could do this with.
Isn't this you already have a gun? So what's gun control going to do? But
here we go.
That's a totally different conversation.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. It is the gun control, and I mean, this isn't. This is just another tool. This isn't the only way to do password spraying. Right. I mean, I was doing password spraying with Burp Suite and a list inside of Burp Suite. I mean, that's. Zap proxy, you can do it with Zap and Burp Suite. So I think the whole argument around the tool stuff is utterly retarded.
Well, I mean, the good hackers are already doing it. They already know how to do it without this, or they already have it. I think what this is doing is allowing for a second tier level of hackers to have access to something that they didn't otherwise have access to. So is it terrible? Is it adding to the problem? Probably, but it's also adding to the defender's ability to defend against it because they know about it as well.
And see, that's my argument, right? My argument is, I
knew that would be your argument.
Well, but here's the thing: like as pen testers, we're following this stuff all the time. We're all the time looking for new tools because we're looking for the edge to get into the networks. Let's face it: if you're a pen tester, you have to know that the entire world is trying to stop you from getting into the network. And so, I'm not trying to say that pen testing is harder by any stretch of the imagination, but if you fall behind for a day and a new tactic or technique comes out, or a new patch comes out, or some other way to protect a network comes out, you could lose 50% of the fights that you go into.
So here's the question for you, though. You bring up a really interesting point. How far behind attackers do you think pen testers are?
As an industry?
Yeah.
I think the majority of pen testers who don't think outside the box. Let me rephrase that. I definitely think, and I'll do hashtag unpopular opinion on this one. I don't think enough pen testers think outside the box on the things that they're doing. And so I would venture to say that better than 60 to 75% of the pen testers that are out there are 2 to 5 steps behind modern day hackers.
So you hire a pen tester, best case scenario, you're already 2 to 5 steps behind.
And here's why I stand behind that. Responder is a common pen testing tool. It's been around for a while. The guys over at TrustWave, their team built that a number of years ago. It's been amazing. I can't even begin to tell you the number of pen tests that I've had from big name companies. I won't embarrass anybody on this stream, but some companies that are just huge and tout the level of expertise that they have, where they literally they sell you a $150,000, $200,000 pen test. They roll into your environment, they put a computer down, they fire up Responder, they get domain admin in 30 minutes because of Responder, and then they're like, ha ha ha, we owned your tail, you suck at security, give us our $200,000, we're out. And organizations don't know any better, so they believe it. That is a shitty pen test. That is a pen test that has nothing to do with real world hacking techniques. That is simply people chasing the domain admin. And I think that in most of the cases that we have in the penetration testing industry, that's the stigma that we've created, is that it's more important to get domain admin than it is to focus on any of the other risk aspects that you're there to provide as part of a penetration test.
Well, capture the flag. Isn't domain admin like the flag? If you get that, game over.
It is, but it's not. It doesn't help you build an actionable risk-based reporting for the client. Because look, okay, so you drop in Responder, you gain domain admin. Your remediation is disable LLM&R and NetBIOS on the network. That is completely impractical and has the least amount of effect to the entire cybersecurity posture of the organization. And just because you found that one way to domain admin doesn't mean that there aren't 50 other things that are actually probably more actionable by a real threat actor than dropping Responder in there. On top of that, to date, Empire is the only C2 framework. Jeff, I know this may be a little over your head when I say things like Empire. It's basically just like an open source framework similar to Trident that focuses on command and control, that incorporates the Responder type functionality, built into it. There isn't any malware out there that does LLM&R poisoning to gain domain admin. Almost all the malware that's out there uses Mimikatz, launches Mimikatz inside of memory, drops admin password, and then uses a Wimic or a PowerShell command to go over to the domain controller. So it's not realistic to the tactics, techniques, and procedures that threat actors are using out there to gain domain admin onto systems. Those are the reasons why I say that I think most pen testers are behind in how they're executing, their penetration test.
I see in chat, most organizations don't have any idea how to buy or use a pen test or what they are even buying. I cannot agree with this statement more. What are some, if you had to say your board comes to you and says, hey, Neil, I've heard pen testing is something we should do. What are the top 3 things you would advise them to do in order to determine what are we going to get for our money and who should we use and is it going to be valuable to us?
I don't think, this is so one of the CISOs I worked for, a couple years ago, he's now the CISO over at Unilever. He's asked me to look at statements of work that have come in for penetration tests, when they've come in, and he's asked me a similar question before. And I don't think that you could, and I don't say this with any disrespect to a CISO, but I don't think you could teach a CISO, what to ask to ensure that they're getting a good penetration test, right? Because I think,
But this is usually a board level discussion coming down to a CISO, because the CISO has to prove to the board that they're doing their job, right?
Most CISOs believe that they need to do a penetration test to find out flaws in their network, so that they can tell the board where to focus their money and their efforts to improve cybersecurity. And so they take a penetration test and use the results of a penetration test to say, well, I need to focus on these areas because this is how cynical Neil. I know you're gonna find that hard to believe, right? Most CISOs use a penetration
which is
test.
98% of Neil.
Most CISOs will use a penetration test to tell how terrible the previous CISO had done.
Aren't you glad you hired me? Look at this.
Oh my God, I just did a penetration test. They fished
I
all
will
of our
solve
executives.
all of this. Yeah.
They fished all of our executives. They got domain admin in 5 minutes. What the hell were you doing hiring that other CISO?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think you can teach a CISO how to ask for the right penetration test. I think we have to get better about looking at the reports that come out the other side of it. And if you look at a pen test report and you look at a vulnerability report and they look almost exactly the same, I'd fire that pen testing company. To me, that right there that's check mark number one right there.
So you have a CISO come to you and say, great, Neil, I don't know what I should even do. Like, should a CISO go to, network architecture, security ops, vulnerability management teams and say, hey, the three of you come together with a scope of work for a pen test? Like what is their next step when the board says, hey, go get a pen test? The CISO should what?
The CISO should go. I have so many cynical answers to this.
Hey, give me the 2%, Neil.
The 2%. I think you should go to your threat team. I think your threat intelligence team, I think your threat hunters, I think your incident responders, I think those are probably the people who are most apt to tell you whether a penetration testing team is qualified. And I would have those guys ask the penetration testing company just the litany of questions about what their tactics, techniques, and procedures are, and almost interview them as if they were being interviewed for a full-time pen tester role. And then if they pass the check of your threat hunters and your threat intel team and your incident responders, that's probably a pen testing company that you could hire.
Yeah,
that's what I would think.
I've also seen several organizations set up a red team, blue team where they've got their SOC with the tools that they've got, and they know that they're going to have a pen test at X time, and it's going to have wide duration, and they're going to be set up as a war game, basically. Well, we know we're going to be attacked at this time, so that's what you know. Go figure it out how you're going to detect it.
And quite honestly, that's why I get back to your good pen testing companies will look for opportunities to collaborate with your blue team. I saw a tweet. I wish I could remember who tweeted it out, but I think the utopia, the thing we want to see is we want to see the CISO engage the blue team to say that we're going to have a pen test. We want the blue team to, in a very, very, very friendly way, be very excited for that test. And we almost want, those teams to be able to come together in the room, sit at the table. If you can imagine a big long conference table where you got the blue team on the one side and the red team on the other side, and you've got the red team all huddled together, almost like they're playing a game and a battleship, and they launch their attack, and then they snicker like that, and the blue team's over there looking at all their systems, waiting for the blinking red lights. Yeah, like shit, we didn't see that. And then be like, okay, guys, you got past us on this one. How did you do it? And then for everybody to kind of on that giant projector on the screen, for the attackers to show, here's the tool we ran, here's exactly how we modified it, here's exactly how we got past all your defensive systems, and for the blue team to look at that and go, aha, we didn't bring this event ID from Windows into Splunk, and so therefore we never saw this user type log into this box. We had our configurations on CrowdStrike tuned too low, and so we didn't see the escalation to get Mimikatz. And then we have no network-based detection capabilities, and so we didn't see the east to west moving as you moved laterally throughout the network. That's utopia for a pen test, red team typing.
Well, in looking at chat again, what should come first? This is the chicken or the egg with red team, blue team, purple team. And yeah, I think I would agree. Purple team. I wouldn't necessarily call it a purple team exercise. It would almost be like a red team, blue team / purple team lessons learned. an almost like a two-step red team exercise, where the first one's to learn lessons and evaluate your processes and tweak things, and then a validation red team exercise. So I'd almost look like it as a red team, blue team sandwich with a purple team exercise in the middle.
What kind of do you put, mayonnaise or mustard on that sandwich?
It depends on what kind of exercise it is. It's like, how red is it?
Yeah, and whatever you call it, purple team. Next week it'll be green team. Year after that it'll be the turquoise team. I could give an F less around it. I don't think we have enough people who have getting all the way back around. That's the reason I call it utopia, is back to Jeff's original question, right? Which is, I don't think we have enough people who even understand the right way to do penetration testing or the right way to do red teaming. Yeah, exactly. NukeSec's got it right. Crawl, walk, run, right? Is let's get people educated on penetration testing. Let's get people educated on red teaming. As the pen testing industry continues to evolve, I think it's the pen testing industry's responsibility to come to the table and say, we're not going to do pen testing the way that we used to do it. We're going to do pen testing the way that it needs to be done in the future. And I think they have to come to the table and start to change that mantra, because I think if they don't do that, then, I don't think
I actually have to laugh at this one, because walk, crawl, run is actually what we end up seeing a lot in practice. I mean, you fixed it for what it should be, but in reality, I think we're stuck with walk, crawl, run a lot of times.
I think we walk, stumble, and then crawl, run.
It's like, oops, ow, that hurt. But I think this also goes back to board level conversations, because like so many of the things that I see, the board wants to be assured that they are de-risking their environment, and by assured, they want proof, which is that kind of talks to what's the purpose of your red team exercise?
Yeah.
Is it so that you can get better as a security organization? Is it to slap your hand because you suck? Is it to make the former CISO look like a really bad CISO, so you're a superhero? So I think some of it is all tied to, what's the purpose of the exercise? And I think so many have gone down the path of, hey, let's just do a red team exercise, without asking the question, great, what's the intended outcome? What's the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? The people paying for it, i.e. the board, what are they trying to accomplish?
So in contrast, Classified talks about a tabletop exercise, right? And I think that's a fantastic question, Classified, and there's a strong distinction there with the tabletop exercise, right? Because in a pen test, it's very tactical and it's very technical. You're dealing directly with IT and security, security teams on that. Tabletop exercises really should be focused at your mid-management tier, your CISO tier, and your senior executive tier. And this is another thing that I think this is also Sec IT guy talks about it, right? Sprint, stall, stumble, walk, and then find another position somewhere else. I think people do the same thing with tabletop exercises. If you've never played Dungeons and Dragons, right? If you've never played Magic the Gathering or World of Warcraft, I'm sure you find tabletop exercises incredibly awkward. You've got a bunch of people in the room, and you have to pretend that you're in a cybersecurity scenario, and you have to get everybody to pretend. And that means that you've got to get that CIO or that CISO, that CFO to pretend that they're in a cybersecurity exercise. And I think that becomes a little awkward for folks who are leading tabletop exercises, because they're like, okay, you've been hit by ransomware that has taken out 50% of your plants. What do? And everybody's looking around like, am I supposed to answer that? Like, where are my experts to tell me what to do?
I called the lawyers.
I call the lawyers. I'm cynical, Classified, about tabletop exercises, not because I don't believe in them. As a matter of fact, throughout time, and ask Jeff and
we've had this conversation many times.
We've talked about running tabletops, Jeff, you and I.
Yeah.
We've put them together because I'm a huge proponent of tabletop exercises, but I don't think people take tabletop exercises seriously enough when they put them together. And so as a result of that, when they do tabletop exercises, they fail miserably. This gets again back to a utopia thing. I think a good utopia is when you can marry a penetration test up with a tabletop exercise where your penetration testing team, does an attack that simulates some type of disaster, almost, scenario that then, correlates into what the tabletop exercise should do. I've seen them done right and I've seen them done wrong, but I'm a little cynical when it comes to tabletop exercises. Cyber says, so is there something that makes Trident better, different than John the Ripper, Hydra, Brutus, Medusa, etc.? John the Ripper...
I think that right there speaks to the fact that Trident isn't doing anything major by releasing this.
Praetorian, you mean? Praetorian's not doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By releasing Trident. You just mentioned 6. You could have mentioned 30.
I think it's if you want to call it better, different, I think when you look at the architecture, Cyber, and I don't know if you saw this earlier when I showed the architecture earlier, I think it's an interesting architecture that kind of builds some scalability in here. And so if you think about I'll talk to one group of folks, which may be like an MSP that does a ton of penetration testing. This allows you to build a sustainable, scalable set of architecture that you could do mass password spraying across 10 or 15 clients without relying on the limitations of something like Burp, Hydra, or Medusa. I think would be the 3 that I would actually pull out of that list that were any good at doing something like that. I think it is interesting the way that it's using the database and Redis to basically store all of the results and information. Again, getting back to Burp, Hydra, Medusa, they don't really have that database backend that allows you to kind of store and utilize that information, in future versions. So I think it's more about having that scalable architecture and a really good kind of design, to it. The trick is to not tell the upfront it's a tabletop. Yeah. I hear way too often, let's red team everything. We want full effects. Full effects. I haven't heard that one in a while. Sec IT guy is former military as well. So I think he's former Marine, but full effects is common military term. So you want downtime. We want ransomware simulation. So you're okay with shutting down your network during a business day without announcement. We will only tell some people. Yeah, that's... I don't think anybody... I think that's very true. You do get a lot of people who say that we want a red team or that we want adversary simulation or we want ransomware simulation, and you're like, okay, we're gonna shut down a manufacturing site, and they're like, no, that's $10 million a day. You can't shut down a manufacturing site. Pull the cable out of the back of the monitor. Introduced chaos framework into our tool set. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, moving on to another tool. I'll drop this one into chat. This is I have mixed feelings on this one. I debated on whether to bring it up, but I thought I'd give it to you guys as a see if you guys want to pound away at it and find something interesting in it. Spicy looks like and a mix between Shodan, Risk IQ. What did I write? Give me a college, Jeff. Give me a college.
UMass.
Is it umass.edu?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
But I'm sure it is. Do Wheaton.edu. What the heck?
Like that?
Yep.
No H?
WHEATON. I can't see it. It's blurred.
Oh, well, that's...
There you go.
There you
I
go.
can see it.
Okay.
That's just my age.
That is your age. Having younger people on the stream from now on.
Yes. Or Jeff with glasses.
So you see we put in Wheaton.edu. It's got some site info here with some details, related organizations, DNS information. Lots of stuff related here. So it looks like it combines a lot of different tools together. Tools like I said, Risk IQ, tools like Shodan, a lot of other stuff. Looks very interesting. I haven't played with it in any real world settings yet to to try it out and see how it works over time. It does give some CVE
It's got a
information.
security score of 100, so it is unhackable.
I've got to say, Wheaton now is unhackable. If anybody wants to no,
Stop
don't,
it.
don't.
Stop it.
One of the things that I did notice is that there is a paywall for some of the features inside of here. So this is not an endorsement by me or Cyber Insecurity Stream or anything like that. Have not vetted these guys out. I think these prices are a little ridiculous for what it is they're offering, and when you look at it, the features seem somewhat limited. So use at your own discretion, but I did think it was an interesting direction. I think, I believe in competition, and so when I looked at this, I thought it was interesting to see somebody competing potentially with some of the other capabilities that are out there, and so I wanted to share this with everybody here. Hey, Frankenstein, thanks for the tier 1 sub, man. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the Cyber and Security family. Make sure you utilize those tier 1 emotes. Now that you've got them, maybe we'll do some emote only chat. It'd be interesting to understand interesting to know how they calculate the score. Don't even get me started on scores. I would bash the heck out of. I hate when people do scoring. I think that you're right. When you say interesting, I equate that into completely unrealistic in how they determine that score. We didn't
even if you are 100, never put 100.
Well, no, because here's the thing. I have a massive problem, and I will call these guys out. Security scorecard, or God, who's the other one other than security scorecard? BitSight. Yeah. I think that is cyber extortion at its finest right there, and I've got no problem saying that. If anybody from BitSight or Security Scorecard is listening, and I'm telling you,
you just lost a subscriber.
I did. I just lost a subscriber for this one. Here's what I'll tell you. I've been on the receiving end of a client bringing me, and this is when I was working for one of the Fortune companies I worked for in the past. They brought us a BitSight report that had graded us very unsatisfactory from a cybersecurity perspective, and said, "Why should we buy from you? Because your cybersecurity score is terrible." And when you start to deep dive into it, they take really arbitrary information to Afraz's point and calculate an arbitrary cybersecurity score, and they don't tell you how they do it. And so literally you get this report card that says yep, this company is an F. And then that person then turns around over to that company and says, "I'm not going to buy from you because you're an F." And you're like, how did you calculate this score? There's no industry standard for it. There's no way to, challenge any of that scoring system. There's no way to defend yourself or anything like that. And really what it boils down to is they tell you that you're an F, and then they sell that and say, if you want to know what all the rest of your companies are, you come pay us millions of dollars, and we'll provide you these BitSight or security scorecard reports on a monthly basis. To do that, and I just think that's a massive case of cyber extortion.
Yes, I hate it. It says, yeah, you get a black box score without any comeback.
Absolutely, and it's being held over your head by all your clients and customers. Yeah, extortion, cyber extortion at its finest. There's definitely ways to get a true risk score, but I don't think 95% of universities have the capacity. I don't think 95% of the universities have the capacity to secure their organizations as a whole. I think the fact that you see a 100 score here on an education unit, should probably tell you the value of the data that they're putting into the scoring system, because most universities by design are designed to be open, communities. No antivirus. Don't tell me what I can and can't put on the network. Don't tell me what I can and can't communicate with. Dear God, don't put a proxy up there that tells me what I can and can't surf to, from an internet traffic perspective. I think they're when we were in the Air Force, universities were target number one because of just how open and insecure their environments are and how easy it was to hack into them. So, there's I can't even begin to universities are the red light district of the internet. Well, I guess porn is the red light district. What would be the next best thing?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
They literally have to leave everything open. They're the paragon of, open your mind, think through things, and anything's good. So you can search on literally anything as a student.
Yeah. Okay, so
By the way, University of Michigan has 100 score as well.
are you
And
just
as
going through all the are you going through all the universities
no,
now?
based on you saying, hey, you should see if you can hack them because they're 100. I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I have to pick University of Michigan.
This is why you're here, because you get to talk about sports, which I have no idea about.
There you go.
Go. What is Michigan? I've been to the Michigan Stadium. It's a gorgeous stadium. That's about as much as I know about Michigan football.
Were they playing anything when you went to the stadium, or was it empty?
What do they play there? Baseball?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, look at there! You got to boo OSU in chat.
Oh, killing me.
All right. Moving on to some news related stuff. By special request in our Discord channel, Jeff, somebody did want to talk about this UEFI malware. How familiar are you with UEFI?
This isn't the TrickBot one, is it?
This is not the TrickBot one. Not. So UEFI is really long and complicated, right? It's the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, right? It replaces BIOS. There.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm there with you now.
Yeah, I figured if we talk about it like that, you've got it, right?
Well, can we create more acronyms in this stupid space we're in? My gosh.
It's so and Sec IT guy, I'll look to you because I know you're former military as well as some of the other guys. I see Insecure Packets in there too. We'll ask Insecure Packets as well. But I thought the military was bad when it came to acronyms, and then I got into cyber, and I actually think that cyber could compare with the military when it comes to acronyms.
I think it could. And neither wins. They both lose.
I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the pen tester who's googling WAP right now. Thank you, Cardi B. But anyway, so UEFI is supposed to replace BIOS. BIOS had several limitations. Restriction on hard disk partition size, the amount of time that it takes for BIOS to perform tasks. UEFI is more programmable, than BIOS is, and so it allowed a lot of OEM developers to basically add a lot of custom applications and drivers to computers when they built them, and that was kind of like the biggest, advantage. And there was a lot of controversy when UEFI first came out, right? In the sense of, everybody was worried that Microsoft would require that like Dell Computing and HP and all those folks would write into their UEFI that nobody could ever replace Windows on the operating system with a lot of their laptops. And so people were actually worried about buying a laptop with UEFI because then they wouldn't be able to reformat it and put Linux on it or anything like that. So lots of back and forth when it comes to UEFI. So just small history there on UEFI. And I know you know this one, Jeff. You remember Hacking Team, right? When we talked about that company out of Milan, Italy?
Yep. Yeah.
One of the first companies that we really saw, in the limelight for doing that privatized surveillance. Think about things like NSO Group, companies like that, all that privatized surveillance type stuff. Well, for those who need a history lesson, in July of 2015, a vigilante hacker who went by the name of Phineas Fisher had hacked and leaked a bunch of 0 days for Flash, Windows, Linux at the time, several mobile platforms and things like that they had gotten from Hacking Team server. They had also released a ton of work orders and contracts for a lot of autocratic nations. Sudan, a lot of countries or a lot of the places in Africa and things like that, and really upended, Hacking Team. If anybody's looking for a good series to watch, Vice has a series called Cyber War, and they actually did a special on Hacking Team, and they talked to the Hacking Team CEO. About the results of the Hacking Team breach, and they allegedly talked to the Phineas Fisher hacker and got his perspective on it. And so it was a pretty interesting interview. But anyway, that was 5 years ago, and now here we are today, almost 5 years later, witnessing still the aftermath of that breach. Here with this news article that talks about a China-linked group repurposed hacking team's stealthy spyware. Basically, it was some researchers from Kaspersky had found that UEFI or firmware-based malware on the PC of two unnamed diplomats, and this is scary from a lot of perspectives. It's scary because these components are put onto the motherboard before literally anything else on here. If you reinstall the operating system, it doesn't matter. The malware still exists. If you replace the hard disk, it doesn't matter. The malware still exists. You actually have to physically replace the microprocessor to actually get rid of this malware. And I know we've talked a little bit about this several weeks ago when it came up in conversation about using like network detection techniques to look for microprocessor based malware. As a matter of fact, that's how allegedly the Kaspersky developers, had caught this, because, once the UEFI malware runs, it then installs a traditional second stage malware, normal, type of second stage type malware that then does its normal C2 communication, which is, most likely ultimately how that was caught. And so, I know it's a lot to digest, but Jeff, I know you do a lot of endpoint business. How scary for you when you think about what it is that you see and deal with and talk to? How scary is this for you?
Well, it's usually scary because you look at, great, what is the SOC team going to do? The incident response team goes in, they figure out what happened, and they clean it. But they're only cleaning the secondary. They're not cleaning the primary issue, and they can't clean the primary issue. So getting to root cause is extraordinarily difficult on this one.
Yeah.
How do you gain visibility into root cause? It literally has to be someone who said, I re-imaged this machine 3 times for the same crummy piece of malware, and it's getting on here again. I've got to figure out where it's coming from. And I would think their next operation would be to do it without being connected to the network to see if it's embedded within the operating system. That would be the only way to figure it out, right? It's like it's getting there before anything else is connecting to it.
Well, and I think I've experienced, when you think about this UEFI firmware, type of hack. There's 2 real ways for this to manifest itself in reality, right? You either have a supply chain issue, which is super scary, right? Or something that's probably a little less scary, but still a little bit scary, which is, the physical access to your laptop when you travel to, a nation that's utilizing, this type of malware, and you happen to be a target of that, right? There's no way to know. There's no way for you to detect that. There's no way for you to even be able to pick that up. You're not going to be able to.
So you're a company. You just mentioned supply chain. The company's supply chain is they buy it from whoever, right?
Yeah.
And it's embedded within the supply chain of who they buy it from. Yeah. So how is that going to get determined? If you're a company, how do you find it?
That's a good question. And I think about some of the companies that I've worked for in the past, and I know you've worked for some large organizations, or you've worked with some larger organizations than I have. With 150,000, 200,000 endpoints, like how would you even go about purging your entire environment if you even suspected that this was a piece of malware that you had to contend with?
Well, you and I have talked about conspiracy theories for a very long time, right? But you think about it, and you've got some IT connected device that is on your network that an IoT piece of equipment that has this on there already. This is the launching point for all kinds of bad stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have it pervasively in your environment. You just have to have it once.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really clear on the supply chain for every connected device in your network.
I know that when there was a company I worked for in the past, we had cyber and Russia as countries where we frequently sent our EVPs and executives to. and we had to build a threat model around, letting those folks into that country with a piece of IT equipment. And, it sounds real easy from a cybersecurity perspective to just say, well, I'm just going to give them a burner device, and they'll use that burner device in there. But what you quickly fail to realize, right, is that they still need all of the comforts of home, if you will, on that burner device. And when you start to give all of those comforts of home to those executives and whatnot, when they go into those countries, you might as well be giving them, a full-fledged PC with access to everything anyway. And if that device does get compromised with something like UEFI, depending on when, if we think about a CEO for some of these Fortune 100 companies, they may fly to China, but then they may fly to 4 or 5 or 6 other places before they ever make it back to home station with the IT team to get that machine wiped. And that's more than enough days for somebody to, put some persistent access into, into those networks.
Yeah, it's super bad stuff.
Yeah, super scary stuff. Super scary stuff. NSA had an entire process for tampering with Cisco devices en route. Lest we forget, yeah, and there was Cisco was the biggest, or not Cisco. We shouldn't really call Cisco. I see somebody talking about Huawei. Nukasek talks about Huawei up there. Huawei's always been the one that we've worried the most about. Prior to the military actually publicly disclosing that we knew that Huawei was working closely with Chinese PLA. And that has always been a massive concern. And the reason it was a massive concern is because we were doing the exact same thing with stuff that was being sent into the AOR. So we knew, what the possibilities looked like for being able to do that. But I think that's far and away easier to do with things like Cisco devices, because I think we're closer partners with Cisco. I think when you look at the way some of these microprocessors are built, overseas and Toshiba's, if you remember Lenovo, the military banned Lenovo's for the longest time because they were being primarily manufactured out of a Chinese facility that was known for, supply chain issues. But really, you can only ban so many Chinese.
You make it sound so benign. Supply chain issues.
Would you like for me to be a little bit
can
more
you call
dramatic?
FedEx? I think they can solve supply chain issues.
I have a supply chain problem. Can we call FedEx?
Call it what it is, man.
It is. What would you call it, Jeff?
Espionage. Cyber espionage.
Call it
warfare. Whatever. It's intended, it's malicious, and it's targeted. I don't know what else you want to say.
What's the government's definition of cyber warfare?
Probably intended, by a nation state and targeted and
I'll give you
do harm.
I'll give you a hint.
Yeah, you define it then.
It doesn't exist. The government hasn't defined what cyber war.
Well, they should.
Obama tried. We're not making this a political conversation, but Obama tried. It's true. It's not yet defined. Nobody has defined what cyber war is, and part of the problem.
And let's do it and tell them what the definition should be.
But
how would you define it? How would you define it?
No. I'm not.
Why?
I'm not going to answer. Because here's the thing.
Because you're afraid the Department of Defense is going to call you.
I'm absolutely not. I know exactly what I would tell the Department of Defense if they called me today. I don't work for you anymore.
I know nothing.
I don't work for you anymore. You've got your own advisors for that. No, here's the problem. As soon as you define it, everything that it doesn't matter how you define it. It does not matter how you define it. As soon as you define it, everything that we're doing today, somebody could claim that we are conducting, acts of cyber war by using our definition. And we would instantly be thrown into, in my opinion, call me a conspiracy theorist, but we would instantly be thrown into, a real active, publicly announced, declared cyber warfare as soon as we put a definition on it. Because by almost every definition, we are actively engaged in cyber war right now.
I don't think we're engaged in cyber war. I don't think what do you want? We are.
We absolutely are. And
whatever that means.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about cyber war, right? Because this came out this week as well. When we talk about TrickBot, This is the U.S. Cyber Command. It was allegedly came out that they were behind some of the takedowns of TrickBot. And so just, when we talk about the government, hacking forces that are at the National Security Agency, this is what U.S. Cyber Command does. So when we had General Williams on the show, he was the J3, the operations commander for U.S. Cyber Command. So this week we actually saw, the U.S. Cyber Command actually, stuff millions of bogus records into the TrickBot database. They actually sent commands to multiple, TrickBot clients to get them to disconnect from the servers. And so, U.S. Cyber Command had active access to TrickBot. Now, in this case, this is obviously, not, I really shouldn't call it obvious. The reason that they did it, or the alleged reason that they did it, was that they're suspecting that this, I can't find the exact statement for it. There, here it is right there. They allege, right, that there was some potential interference with the presidential election that was going to come up with all of these TrickBot infections that were out there. And so you have to ask yourself is, like, if this was Russia, right, and Russia was conducting cyber warfare, then that's easy to say. But if
Russia doesn't get involved in our elections, Neil.
Don't go there, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we were to retaliate, or if it were to come out that some of the work that we were doing against TrickBot was actually invading Russian systems that were owned and operated by the Russian government, by having a definition of cyber war, somebody could come through and say that we are actively engaged in a cyber war. If TrickBot was indeed being operated by a government entity, somebody could come through and say that it is cyber war. And then that has all the congressional implications and everything that comes along with it.
I agree. I think we should call it asymmetric warfare.
Asymmetric warfare.
Yeah.
And Festivus with the face palming emoji right after that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, TrickBot. I mean, I've got a couple of customers who have had some pretty nasty things going on with TrickBot. It is
really.
It is nasty for sure. I had one that literally said that they were watching their AV get dismantled and removed from an endpoint because they literally could see it and watch every process and every step. And they were able to get ahead of it just because they got a little lucky. And they were notified because the attacker was doing some things. I won't go into any great details here, but the attacker was doing some things that it just shouldn't have done it that way, right? If they were trying to hide their tracks, they would have done a couple of other things. But it was because they did a couple of things overtly wrong, as opposed to minorly wrong, that they got caught. Otherwise, they literally could have owned the entire network.
But
the Active Directory servers was the intended target, and it was like almost there.
You say overtly wrong. Was it overtly wrong, or was it that their tactics and techniques, facilitated them to use?
It was not a slow roll. It was a pretty aggressive approach, and because of that aggressive approach, it was alerting some things. If they would have taken a more benign approach, never would have been found.
I think that's so when you talk about this, right, you're talking about a client that saw all of this happening, right? Like they were watching this happen. What tool did they have that allowed them to see this happening?
It was our EDR tool.
It was our EDR tool.
Yeah, so it was Carbon Black Response. It wasn't our protective engine. But EDR is literally watching everything that's going on, and it was able to play everything back.
I think that's I think because you mentioned two things there, right? You mentioned they watched it dismantle the AV, and they watched it dismantle the AV, right? But how did they watch it? So they got on there. They knew that it had AV. They had it in their rule set and their TTP to dismantle the AV. But what they didn't dismantle was the EDR tool set, either because they didn't see it or they didn't have it in their procedure. And it was because of EDR that, allowed them to see it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, their intent was to disable anything that could stop them, but they didn't really realize that the EDR tool was able to stop them because we were able to go live on that endpoint and stop it. But still, it was because they were very aggressive in how they were doing the initial attack.
But let's pull that back, right? Is because like I think that's a I get back to this XDR conversation, and I know I hate to beat this dead horse, but you know
You love your XDR, don't you?
I'm gonna be the first one in line to buy XDR. I'm gonna be the first one. I'm calling every vendor I got now asking for XDR right here.
Oh, I got 3 for you.
I bet you do. You just want me to make their lives miserable. Like that's an awesome story. What's missing there that you need XDR for? What do you think? Because I mean, I don't know what this entity's infrastructure looks like, but I imagine they had a SIM, they had EDR. They're probably hopefully bringing those logs into EDR, at least the alerts and things like that. What's missing that EDR would have, or I mean that XDR would have solved it. I mean, if you were looking at,
I don't necessarily know if it's an XDR play. I would have said that there would have been some behavior plays. I know there's some good comments coming in on some of this discussion for sure, but without a more nimble protective engine that you could on the fly figure out what's happening and stop some of those behaviors, that's what was missing here in this situation. The AV being able to be dismantled, I've seen that before. It's not hugely surprising. Being able to be removed from the endpoint entirely, so that there wasn't even the ability to re-engage it and update it with a signature file, that was a bit surprising. But I think if you had some real-time behavioral tools that could see bad TTPs, stop those bad TTPs in real time, irrespective on if it's a 0-day or not, the XDR really would help after the fact to resurrect exactly what it was, where it came from, and how it propagated. Just giving more visibility, but I don't think it would have provided more protection per se, outside of that post view of, yeah, this is what happened. Here's how it happened. Here's where it happened. Here's how it got there. Understanding that is probably the extent of where I think XDR would have helped.
Yeah. I think that's
I know you don't like XDR and you don't see it as hugely beneficial.
Look, I think that's a safe answer. I think I applaud you for humoring me and digging deep into your bullshit meter to try to find a good answer for XDR. I'll give you that one. I'll let it die for now. I'm not going to keep beating it.
Well, isn't XDR really what a SIM is supposed to do anyway?
That's my problem with it, right? That's and I'm just going to give a plug out to Festivus because he reminds me of my sentiment on XDR with his XDR, and we're still going to get a pirate meme. As soon as we get enough subscribers to unlock more emotes, we're gonna do a pirate, to commemorate Festivus's XDR. My problem is that it's described in marketing media as more of a capability that we all should have been trying to build in most of our SOCs for the last 10 years. And I don't think that it's solvable with technology. And I think that that's the problem that we have is people have taken, the design concept of a good, detection and response capability and has built a marketing project around XDR and sold it. You missed it. I don't know if you were on that one, Jeff, but we chatted with Rick on XDR, and he blamed Gartner for.
That sounds like Rick.
Yeah, he blamed Gartner for coining the term XDR, but I do think cynically there is some value to that.
I think XDR without a protective means of extending a protective engine beyond just the endpoint to maybe wall off some networks. XDR is basically bringing that telemetry of the network into an understanding of the threat to the endpoint, right? If that doesn't then immediately tie into, great, how are we going to use this information to extend out the protective side from just the endpoint to more of the network resources to potentially wall off or segment off problem childs. I think that's where XDR needs to evolve to.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like I said, I'll give you a pass on this one. I'm gonna
We'll fight about this one later.
Here's what I am. Here's what I do promise everybody on the stream, because I am cynical about it, and I want to bring in experts. I'm actively looking for somebody who's willing to come on stream and talk XDR with me. I'm not going to beat him up. We're not going to be rude. I'll have Jeff here as kind of like a referee to make sure I don't get out of hand. But if anybody knows of somebody who's doing XDR that thinks that, you're pretty impressed with what you've seen so far, send them my way on LinkedIn. Let me interview them, and I'll be more than happy to bring them on stream, and we'll talk to them about XDR. But I am actively trying to search out folks who are willing to come on stream and convince me, of XDR. So I think we underestimate the value of packet capture and real-time analysis with something like Bro. I don't think that we underestimate the value of packet capture. I think if you're in the detection response space, you love the idea of packet capture. I don't think organizations like the idea of packet capture or are prepared to implement something like packet capture. And this is one of the knocks that I'll have against like GDPR and CCPA, right, is what?
I was just going to say, there's like the privacy alarms are going off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I ran into this with one of the companies I worked for is, we had a packet capture, but I had to go through 19 miles of red tape as the SOC director to get access to a PCAP because of all the privacy stuff that's there. We weren't pulling it
in the end. Did you get it?
Yeah. Days after the investigation.
Yeah. Was it still valuable?
Just in a forensics capacity. That was it. Not in an actual detection and response capacity. So I think, we had packet captures in the military. I've been to organizations that have packet captures. I think everybody values packet captures. I think organizations that don't currently have it don't understand how to implement it.
You do not have any rights to privacy on a corporate network.
You want to touch that one, Jeff?
Oh man, I don't necessarily agree with that one. I think there's a lot of risk and compliance officers that would fight that battle.
Like why do you say that?
Because GDPR absolutely, they don't care if it's a corporate network. The individual's the individual.
You think that GDPR and CCPA have now said that you have an inherent right to privacy on a corporate network?
No, that's the problem. They haven't said it, but I bet you the first lawsuit is going to be around this one. Do you not agree? I mean, you and I have been talking about CCPA and GDPR for a while.
Right.
And how nebulous it is and some of the undefined pieces and how are they going to literally determine who gets what fine. I know it's articulated, but we've already seen a vast array of how the fines are coming down. So there's a lot of ambiguity there. I think the one thing that we've seen throughout all of them is that the individual, their rights permeate every piece of this. And so I don't think that the individual's rights are going to be any less just because they're on a corporate network.
So
if you do a packet capture on a corporate network and that information about an employee becomes public information as a result, that's going to be an issue. I'd love to get your lawyer friend on this one.
I know. I'm thinking about Roy on this one. Like, God, I wish Roy was here for this one.
How come every one of our conversations we want a lawyer?
Because we've been conditioned in instant response to ask for a lawyer for every conversation. I mean, look, here's the thing, and Muncher brings this up, right? Those only apply to stored data, right? But I think you almost everything in a SOC, right? If you're storing it into a SIM, it becomes stored data. Even packet capture data, right?
Isn't packet capture stored data?
Packet capture is stored data. But here's the issue that I have with the idea of privacy on a corporate network, right? Is I don't think that the rules have been defined specific enough to define what a company owns as company data versus what is owned by the individual. And if you look at some of the GDPR regulations, and again, I'm speaking solely as a technologist, solely as a security practitioner, and the work that I did implementing GDPR.
No one mistook you for a lawyer.
I know. I just had to make sure that I said that up front, right?
Your disclaimer was so irrelevant.
I think, an IP address and a name associated isn't personal data. I think, a computer is a corporate asset, and I don't think that you should be doing any personal business on a corporate asset. And I think if you're doing personal business on a corporate asset, I do think that you have to inherently give up some expectation of privacy if you're choosing to do personal business on a corporate laptop. And I think if your lawyers have appropriately set up the protections on there, then
but Your Honor, Neil said that it's okay for me because they were doing personal business on this corporate network. Neil said it. It's fine.
But Muncher's right. I think if you have that stuff set up, I don't think you have any right to privacy on a corporate network.
I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I don't think that's been defined.
I'm gonna message Roy, and we're gonna see if we can bring Roy back.
I would love to get an answer on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, big if.
Yeah, big if.
Yeah, the big
if. We're both like, yep.
I'm making a note of this. We're gonna message Roy and see if we can't get Roy to come back on and talk GDPR with us.
He's gonna start billing you, Neil.
He is gonna start billing me. I'm gonna have to put him on retainer for cybersecurity conversations like this. All right, let's move on to another topic, and the only reason I bring this one back up, we talked a little bit about this one, Jeff, on Saturday, and I talked about it more from, hey, I thought it was a sign of the direction that the industry was going, that IBM was splitting off into two different companies by the end of 2021, and we've talked on the stream, a lot about the importance of cloud cybersecurity and cloud importance and things like that. And I thought that this was more of a technical move of IBM to move towards highlighting the value of cloud from having a dedicated company that's focused strictly on cloud performance and cloud infrastructure and things like that, and then having a completely separate company to support all the rest of the aspects of their business. But I think you had this is what I love about having you on and your business mindset, but I think you had a much more business side of this conversation than I think I had given it credit for.
Well, I just think there's a couple of layers here. You're spot on the technical side. And having that focus is a good thing, I think. I think one of the big reasons they're doing it, though, is because every time they put forward earnings, they were being dragged down by what this new co is going to end up having as part of its assets. So if you think about the products that they're putting forward, every time they have a good sale on the cloud side, they're actually intentionally losing business on what the new co offers. So they're actually dismantling some of their revenue stream from the new co and replacing it with the new cool cloud technologies that are higher margin, that are better for the customer, more flexible, et cetera. But Nuco is it's just dragging on their finances. So anytime they would push out new earnings, they would say, "Hey, we had great new profits," and look at their latest earnings report. They literally say we had some great new offerings in our cloud. We're developing some great new products, and traction is underway, et cetera, et cetera. But we're dragged down by replacing some of these contracts with our legacy stuff with these new cloud technologies. So every time they would earn money, they're losing money out of Nuco. So if they separate those, Nuco is going to always be a drag, right? But a lot of companies still need those technologies. And then the Wall Street darling can be IBM. And when they have growth, it's just going to be growth. It's not going to be dragged down.
This is more of a P&L exercise than it is anything else. They want
I don't know if it's going to be more of that because I think there's absolutely a reason for the focus, but it absolutely is going to be a P&L discussion as well. It's an earnings report discussion.
Is this a precursor to NewCo on the right hand side? Is that a precursor to bankruptcy? Is that what that looks like, or is that just a?
I think NewCo is going to end up having like it's all the managed infrastructure stuff. It's the old way that they were managing and doing things. I don't run a lot across a lot of companies that are saying, "Hey, I want to build my own data center, and I want it fully managed by IBM.
I want to buy 20 more AS400s."
I don't see a lot of, and I'm sure I'm going to get dinged by some of my friends over at IBM and say, "No, I've got 5 new customers this quarter." But I mean, the reality is, you listen to their earnings report, and they don't talk about the managed offerings that they've got. They talk about their cloud. Mm-hmm. That's 98% of their earnings report analyst calls.
Since you have friends at IBM, I'll ask you this, and if you don't know, you don't know. If you can't say, you can't say. When I see service delivery excellence over there, that to me that reeks of like managed services, like like IBM X-Force, which is their pen testing and security teams and things like that.
That's how I read it.
Huh? Is that how you read it too?
That's how I read it as well. Yeah. I haven't validated with any of my buddies, but that's kind of how I looked at it too.
So then is that also a drive then that the professional services industry may be a little bloated, and we've seen a too much of a spike in managed services if it's being chosen to be divested off like this. It wasn't brought along on the cloud side. Was that an indicator that cloud security or some of the security offerings that are built into IBM, they're viewing cloud technologies and cloud advancement completely separate from cybersecurity offerings?
I think there's going to end up being some cyber offerings within the new version of IBM moving forward as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they take some of those assets and move them around. I think their financial services side as well, how they finance a lot of these. That's a pretty large organization within IBM. So I'm going to be interested to see how those two things actually get split up between these companies.
I joke frequently that IBM is a place where software goes to die. And if we talked about some of the AppSec stuff on Saturday, we talked about AppScan. AppScan's a good example of that. Before
VMware bought Carbon Black. I remember talking to you about IBM possibly doing it. It's like, I hope not. That's where they're gonna die.
I did joke with you on that.
It was good knowing you, Jeff.
That's right. You're going to get bought by IBM, and then you're not going to have a job anymore.
What's your next career going to be?
I mean, but this is promising though. I mean, because like you see Security Guru guy, right, in Outlaw in chat, right? Cloud hosting is like printing money. Is this the first smart move that we see out of IBM to actually pivot towards being something successful with, ever since they took on Apple?
This was something that had to happen. I mean, they've had a drag on their earnings for a very long time. And if they're going to play with the Amazons and Googles, they have to change.
What's the
same time for life? I love it.
What's the next big thing that we see out of IBM in the cloud space that you think should solidify them in that cloud market space?
I think they're going to need to figure out a way to be more open, so that people can be nimbly moving between cloud operators.
Do you put them, if you had to rank them with Oracle, because I won't even say like GCP or AWS or Azure in there, but if you had to look at like Oracle,
I think they'd argue with that you're not.
Really? You think that they would see themselves as an AWS competitor?
I think they view themselves as an AWS competitor. And I think if you asked them, I bet they would say that they've got a leg up technically on a few things. But I don't know. I'd love to ask them that question, see if it passes the red face test.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour. So I'm gonna do last call for questions. Literally any question that you've got. You know, Nate says I've never saw AWS play
or chess. They've never played chess.
Man, I actually had. I will say this. I did have IBM come into one of the Fortune companies that I worked for and actually try to sell us Watson to replace our entire SOC with Watson.
How'd that go over?
They're still not in there.
And you're gone, and they're still not in there.
Remember,
that's how bad the meeting was.
That's how bad the meeting went. Yeah. Last chance to get your Hacked Planet score in there. Looks like over this chat we managed to make it up to 32%. Again, that's right on point for our average 5% per stream. So, last call for your Hacked Planet scores. Jeff, as always, Jeff's going to be our co-host, on the regular now, for participating in the streams. He's graduated out of the guest realm and into a co-host realm. So Jeff, as always.
Does that mean you treat me terribly now? It's kind of like a guest to your house. Once they're no longer a guest, they live with you. It's like, you going to do the dishes? What are you doing?
Like, why the hell did you leave the fucking door? Sorry, damn it. Swear jar.
Swear jar.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for participating in tonight's stream. Remember, get your Hacked Planet scores in. Remember, we got Boss of the Sock next week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we got a lot of .conf stuff going on. Don't forget to sign up for Secure West Virginia on November 7th. Don't forget to sign up next week for the INE webcast to go over the brand new Cyber Pass. Don't forget, next Wednesday we do have our multi-part series for our open source intelligence course. I'm going to scan back over to chat and see if there's any questions.
The last, I think it's a perfect one to end on.
What
would you consider some good preparation for getting into threat hunting?
Ooh, I have all the tools at work, but I want to make sure I understand the nuts and bolts. I think if you wanted to take a course, I would definitely recommend the Threat Hunting Professional course that Insecurity has. I know the developer who did that, and I've actually reviewed that course material. I'm actually pretty impressed with that. Squirrel, I'll type this one actually in chat. Squirrel Threat Hunting Methodology. I would search for this on Google and learn as much about this. There's actually a fantastic Twitter account that I would recommend. I'm looking for it right now. Here it is. This Twitter account right here, this individual right here has done some amazing work in the threat hunting space. He's got the Helk, which is a red team elk stack. He does the Hunter Playbook, the Mordor Project. Amazing resource for tons of threat hunting stuff. I would definitely start there. Speaking of Twitter, make sure that you do throw us a follow over on Twitter. By special request, we did add a threat intelligence list. I did put that into the threat intelligence channel on Discord, so you can follow that threat intel list to get a curated list of all of the threat intelligence stuff that I follow. It's not the most comprehensive list. I won't claim that it is the list to end all lists. It's not one list to rule them all. What I would say is that it's one that provides the least amount of signal to noise ratio when it comes to threat intel out there. Thanks as always, Festivus, for gifting the tier 1 sub, and congrats Ant-Man for the receiving of said tier 1 sub. Appreciate that. So lots of stuff to do there for threat hunting. And again, you can always go over there and follow our threat intel feed and get that. If you follow me on Twitter, you can actually see all the folks that I follow, and that'll help you find the right people to follow us there. One last question. I'm in the process of setting up my first lab. Any suggestions or resources, minimum topology? I would start with Security Onion. I would stand up a Security Onion instance and, kind of use that to start out with. I would also look at the Splunk cyber range. Is that what it was that we saw the other day? There it is, Splunk attack range. Here, I'll put this one in here. The Splunk attack range is also in there. This is a great way to stand up something and be able to launch attacks and utilize them inside of a Splunk environment so that you can practice that, especially if you're going to do something like Boss of the Sock next week. This will be a great way for you to kind of get familiar and get used to Splunk attack range. They are not. They were bought by AWS, but you can actually still go out there and read some of the old documentation, especially on Cyber War Dog's page, threathunter.net, I think is what it is. You can actually see some of their old documentation. It's still the most relevant methodology and maturity framework that exists out there currently when it comes to threat hunting. With that being said, we're gonna David Ames. I wonder if that's you're trying to make that sound like the guy who got arrested for spying from the CIA. Have either of you ever fallen for a social engineering attack? Does getting married count? For up-to-the-minute cybersecurity news, make sure you follow and subscribe to the Cyber and Security channel on Twitch and YouTube. Also, make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know when we go live.